Now that the newest American Pie film, American Pie Girls' Rules, is now out on DVD and Netflix, it's time to rank all 9 of the American Pie films from worst to best. So let's get started. Hey everybody, my name is Justin. I love to watch movies. If you guys love to watch movies too, you guys are in the right spot. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and click that bell notification for more up and coming videos. Can you believe there's actually 9 American Pie films? The film started as a sex comedy and then had 3 films, a trilogy, and then we got several films that were spin-offs, and they were called American Pie Presents. And you had films like Naked Mile, Band Camp, Beta House, Book of Love, and now Girls' Rules. And we also had American Reunion thrown in there as well. So it's been a while since we actually had an American Pie film. I think 2012 was Reunion, and then the last Presents film was, I think, 2009. So it's been a long time. I grew up with these films, from American Pie to American Pie, Book of Love. I watched every single one. I bought the DVD. I watched it several times. This was all when I was a teenager, so I have very fond memories of watching these films when I was like 8th and 9th grade and just binging them over and over again. I had a good time watching it, so I was really excited for Girls' Rules. I will be including this in the rankings, so if you guys have seen all 9, leave your ranking down below. How would you rank all 9 of these movies? We're going to be starting the list off coming in at number 9, the worst one, Book of Love. Many things about American Pie Book of Love feel cheap. This film is not very funny and has one of the weakest Stiflers in any of the American Pie films. John Patrick Jordan played Stifler, and there wasn't really much to his story, rather just being there and having another Stifler within the movie. Seriously, how many Stiflers can there be? The plot is pretty average. We have some virgins who find the Book of Love in their school library and use it to find girlfriends and make love and, you know, everything that American Pie has embodied throughout the years. The film isn't very funny. The characters, the main characters and Stifler are very unlikable. There's really not any depth given to any of these characters. You really just don't care about them and their journey to find love and have sex. It just does not work within this movie. The structure of the plot is very weak. It feels like a string of random jokes and skits put together. It doesn't really tell an interesting story. Coming in at number 8 is Beta House. The film took the enjoyable characters from American Pie, Naked Mile, the 2 Stiflers, and put them in college. In tradition of the American Pie films, there were a lot of sex jokes, and the plenty of sex jokes we did get really didn't add anything to the plot. I feel like the film focused on having crude humor and those sex jokes rather than actually developing a plot within this movie. For a film that takes place in a beta house and is in college, there's a lot of lame attempts at jokes. This has potential to be really funny, and having a lot of structure and reminiscent of those previous American Pie films, like American Pie 2, but it lacked all of that, lacked all of the magic from the previous American Pie films, and had a story that was very weak and relied too much on those crude jokes. Coming in at number 7 is American Pie Girls' Rules. I actually really did enjoy this film. I thought the 4 girls in here were very likable characters. They had really good chemistry. We had Stephanie Stifler in here. There was no mention of her connection to the other Stiflers. Maybe I just missed it, but I thought she was really good in the film. I really thought she portrayed a Stifler very well. There's a lot of funny moments within here. There's also some emotional moments for the characters as they are realizing things about the relationship with boys and what they actually want. It was a surprising moment for the characters, and overall I really did enjoy Girls' Rules. It was a little bit tame compared to Beta House and Naked Mile and Band Camp. It feels more like a PG-13 version compared to those movies, but for what it was, I really did enjoy it. Coming in at number 6 is Band Camp. I was really excited to see Band Camp when it was released in 2005. I saw the previous 3 films all kind of like around that time, 2004, 2005. I was really into those kind of comedies, and so I was excited to see what they would do with Matt Stifler, the younger brother of Steve Stifler, and sending him off to band camp. There's, you know, the reference of band camp from the previous American Pie films, but I think he did a great job playing the younger brother of Steve Stifler. Everything he did, he wanted to be like his brother. He idolized his older brother, and so he wanted to act like him. And with acting like him, we were able to have a lot of fun, hilarious moments throughout the movie. This movie got rid of the whole entire cast, from Jim and Michelle. We only had Jim's dad, Eugene Levy, in here. We also had the Shermanator in here as well. Those are the only two characters that appeared in the movie. Eugene Levy went on to appear in Naked Mile, Beta House, Book of Love, but was not in Girls Rules. I was a little bit disappointed that he was not in that film, but he did return for band camp. I laughed a lot throughout the movie. I really did enjoy Matt's development as a character. It's not as groundbreaking as American Pie. It's the first Presents movie, and for having a spin-off movie, I think it did work and provide a lot of funny moments while trying to remember what the original trilogy set up and not forget that. Coming in at number 5 is American Wedding. I remember watching American Wedding and being a little bit confused with the lack of characters that were in the film. We had a lot of characters in the first and second movie, and a lot of the characters are missing from American Wedding, and I think it feels a little bit incomplete with the characters that are in the movie, because they set up really strong relationships in American Pie 1 and 2, and it was lacking in the second film. We did get a lot of Finch and Stifler in the movie. Seems like they were almost leading the movie, and they were really hilarious in the film. We had Jim and Michelle's wedding that was happening, and that seemed like a big send-off to those characters. But with lacking some of the main characters we did get from the previous two films, it almost didn't feel like a full American Pie movie. But it still did have that gross out, honest humor that the American Pie 1 and 2 films set up. Has it in this movie. Stifler is getting himself in odd situations. Finch is always doing something with Stifler's mom. So it has those traditions that set up in the first two films carried over into this third film. It did wrap up the trilogy very well by having the main characters like Jim and Michelle have a solid storyline that wrapped up. I was just a little bit disappointed with the lack of characters and the lack of story for some of the smaller characters as well that we did get from the first two ones. They were big in those two movies. They felt much smaller in the third film. Luckily, we did get American Reunion. Actually, coming in at number 4 is American Reunion. A lot of the characters from the first two films did return for American Reunion, and anytime they appeared on screen for the first time, I had a big smile on my face because I did remember their scenes within the first two movies. And this was a good reunion movie. It didn't bring back these characters in an awkward way. It didn't have to explain their absence over the years. They were just there. When you go to a high school reunion, which I haven't yet, I was actually supposed to go to my reunion this year, but it was shut down because of COVID. You just there and you see all your friends. You just ask what's been going on and what you've been doing over these last 10 years. That's what like American Reunion is that they just get together and they're happy to see all their friends. And it's a long film for an American Pie movie, but doesn't drag out at all. There's a lot of new characters in the movie. They are integrated in the film very well. There's a lot of the cast that returns, and they all feel like their normal selves, but have adult responsibilities and things that are happening in their life. So the film does explore adulthood for these characters that we grew up while they were in high school, and now they have children, jobs, and responsibilities. And so the film tackles those moments pretty good while also trying to maintain the humor and innocence from the first three American Pie films. And it's a realistic look as, you have a job and you're trying to be responsible. Once you get together with a group of friends, that's all forgotten. Coming in at number 3 is Naked Mile. This was the second American Pie Presents movie, and I really did enjoy this film when it came out. I thought it was a different approach to an American Pie movie. The main characters get a hall pass, like a break from their girlfriends, and they can go do whatever they want, and they participate in a mile-long naked mile of marathon, and we get a lot of nudity within this movie. And I think there's the two different Stiflers. One was your average Stifler, one was your person who followed the rules all the time. And so it was cool to see him kind of break out of his shell and, you know, have some fun within the movie. There's a lot of humor in here, a lot of jokes I did laugh at. It tried to take the elements from the American Pie film, but make it a little bit different as well. Like I said, there's a lot of nudity within this movie, but there is several hilarious jokes throughout, and I know that it's a straight-to-DVD film. It's not as, like I said, groundbreaking as the first two American Pie films, but for it being a Presents movie, this is my favorite of the bunch. Coming in at number 2 is American Pie 2. This really feels similar to the first film. The characters feel the same, the story feels the same, but it still manages to have a lot of fun within it. The cast has really good chemistry. All of the characters are likable. Even if you hate them, you still find something you can like about these characters. It took them in college, new territory for the characters, and they tried to build certain relationships throughout the film, and it was struggling a little bit, which is still that honest look. And that's what I really liked about the couple early American Pie films, is how honest it was for high school students in going into college. And so this film, like I said, still kind of feels like the same as American Pie. The structure, the characters, it just feels like essentially like the same kind of movie, but it still managed to work. I absolutely love the characters, the situations, the jokes. All of it is really funny and a really realistic, relevant story for kids that are in high school and going to college. So I wasn't in high school at the time I watched American Pie 2. I was still in junior high, but I'm watching this film. I couldn't wait to get into high school and go to college and experience some of the things that they were doing in the film. And though the film is not as good as the first one, it's still very funny. But coming in at number 1 is American Pie. American Pie is, I would consider, groundbreaking, but one of the strongest teen comedy films that were released around that time, because in the late 90s, the early 2000s, there were a lot of teen comedies, and American Pie is one that's often discussed as the best and often discussed as one that kind of started to have a bunch of companies start to make these teenage comedies. And so I would say that's, you know, a little bit groundbreaking, but it did set a trend for movies for years to come. All of the characters, from Jim and Michelle and Stifler and Finch, they're all very funny. Everybody in here feels like great friends, and we do get a lot of side relationships, a lot of side stories that do feel developed. Since there are 4 main friends that are trying to lose their virginity before prom, we have a lot of stories that could happen within the movie, and the film doesn't forget one character and has one other character have most of the story. It has a nice balance to the film and allows for a lot of development and growth for these characters. A lot of gross humor, a lot of crude jokes. It's definitely a teenage comedy with its subject, its story, its characters. It all feels like it's targeted towards teenagers. And that's why I was so interested in the film and I enjoyed it so much when I watched it as a teenager. And that's why I was so invested with the trilogy and the spin-offs and the reunion as well. At the time of point in my life when I did watch the first American Pie film, it will always be my favorite American Pie film. I don't think there will be another film that will come out that will surpass this movie. And it's one of my favorite teenage comedies as well. So there you guys have it. All 9 of the American Pie films ranked worst to best. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comments section down below. And have you guys seen the new one, Girls Rules? Stay tuned for more up-and-coming videos. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.